Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the notification bells to get notifications of when I upload more videos. So this is totally impromptu for me and I rarely do this, but I just saw, I guess I would call it a news story. I don't exactly know what I would call it, but I was just, scrolling through YouTube, watching whatever, and I saw a video that had autistic in the title. And normally when I see autistic, bipolar, basically any mental illness in a YouTube title, I would like to watch it, because I have Asperger's, I have bipolar, depression, and it's just interesting to me. And I like to watch videos about other people who have mental illnesses and also share my same mental illnesses, because it's nice to see that people aren't like, it's nice to see that people can show the world that just because they have a mental illness, it doesn't matter. They can still live their lives successfully, and it doesn't make them lesser than or inferior to the rest of society, because we're not. I mean, we're just like everybody else. So I saw this video with autistic in the title, and I started watching it, and I saw that it was about this woman named Myka Stauffer. So I had never heard of Myka Stauffer before, and as I was watching this video, it was said that she had adopted a little boy from China and rehomed him after, I guess, a couple years. I just barely came across the story, so I don't know any facts. I don't know how long they had him, and the only fact here I know is that the only actual fact I know is that they adopted him, and knowing he had special needs, but not to the extent of what they thought his special needs were. And I watched a video that she and her husband just put out explaining what happened and talking about this whole situation. And it's so weird. And being adopted and having a mental illness, I would like to share my thoughts, because I don't really, when it comes to mental illness, anything mental illness, I would like to advocate for certain people with the same illnesses that I share, because that's just something that's interesting to me, and I like to advocate for people who share my same illnesses, because there's still a stigma out there on any kind of mental illness, and I think it's ridiculous. And hopefully in the future, I can see a future where mental illness it's not stigmatized. It's just, it is what it is, and it's not stigmatized, and it's nothing to look down upon. It's nothing to judge. It's just how it is, and people are born the way they're born. So, on Myka's explanation video, I guess she and her husband said that they had adopted this little boy from China, and knowing he had special needs, but they didn't know that his special needs were as severe as, I guess they had been told. I don't really know. So I started watching a little bit more on it, and, people, of course, this is America. We can use the internet to spread good, bad, and share our opinions on anything. I don't really have anything bad to say, yet I don't have anything good to say about the whole situation, because I literally just came upon it about 10-15 minutes ago, and I felt obligated to share my opinions on it. So I was adopted right out of the hospital. My birth mother was 17 at the time and decided to put me up for adoption because she knew that she was too young and didn't have the ability to care for me. So instead of, okay, let me back up. At 17 years old, she was smart enough to realize that, she was smart enough to know that she didn't have the ability to raise me the way she wanted me to be raised. I mean, a parent wants to give their child the best life they can possibly have, and at such a young age, she knew that she couldn't do that for me, so she made the ultimate sacrifice and put me up for adoption. And I was adopted into a loving family with one boy that was 4 years old at the time. And of course, I mean, being 17, it's amazing to me how I look at myself at 17 years old and think, God, I couldn't do that. Like, I mean, and she was 16 when she got pregnant, so it wasn't like she was planning on it. So, and I give her huge props for that, because she didn't have to put me up for adoption. She didn't have to give me, this life. And when I say give me this life, everything that my adopted parents have given me, my birth mother didn't have the ability to give me. And of course, like I said earlier, she made the ultimate sacrifice and gave me a family that could care for me, and she knew that it could care for me. So like I said, I was adopted straight out of the hospital. My birth mother met my adopted family, and I was adopted out of Texas. So my adopted parents spent about 2 weeks in Texas and met my birth mom and met her family and stuff, and then signed all the paperwork and such and all that stuff. And I was, as an infant and a toddler, I had hit all my milestones as I was supposed to, as a normal, or I shouldn't say normal, as any other infant toddler would. But when I was about 2.5 years old, I got spinal meningitis and encephalitis. And my adoptive parents were told that I wasn't going to make it through the night. And they couldn't, me being adopted, they had lost track of my biological mother, so they couldn't get a hold of her and ask her about my family history and my family medical history and stuff like that. So it was a mystery, and my adoptive parents were told that I wasn't gonna make it through the night. And here's me being defiant, of course, me being defiant as I totally am. I lived, and I got, somehow I survived and I got through it. And however, after all the illnesses were gone and whatever and stuff, and I was taken home with my adoptive parents, I was still a kid. I got better. They were thankful. Everybody was thankful. This kid lived. Yay. But as just playing as a child, I wasn't hitting my normal milestones, and I basically had to start all the way over again. I had to learn to crawl, scoot, walk, all of that stuff. And I had actually, I think maybe like 1.5 years after that, I was showing symptoms of having those illnesses again, and I was taken back to the hospital, and it turned out that I had spinal meningitis and encephalitis yet another time, and was in the hospital for a little while after that, and miraculously survived that one too. Again, defiant, and I came home and again had to basically repeat that cycle. I had to reach my regular milestones again, like I said, crawl, scoot, walk, all that jazz again. And I hadn't, and I showed that since I had been knocked back a few pegs, I had to, like I said, repeat all my milestones and reach my typical milestones again. So I was set back a little bit. But I grew up an average kid, just normal, average little kid, you know. Like to play outside, like to play ball sports and all that stuff. But when when the doctors informed my adoptive parents that I wouldn't make it after I made it, after I survived through what the doctors said I wasn't going to survive through. They said that I was going to be severely handicapped, and I wasn't going to be like a normal kid, like average kid, and I was going to be handicapped, and I was going to be special needs and stuff. And in a sense, I am special needs, but I'm not handicapped. Physically, I am not handicapped. Mentally, I do have a couple mental illnesses, but that's a lot better. It's a lot better to have a kid with a few mental issues than to not have a kid at all. That's just a fact right there. So I grew up an average kid, you know. I was in, when I was probably in 4th, 5th grade, I was in special ed math just because I had an issue learning. And I believe when I was 12 or 13, I was diagnosed with bipolar. Because as a kid, I mean, kids are going to have tantrums, kids are going to have meltdowns, but mine were extremely destructive. And, of course, my parents were concerned. Oh, I left out a fact. My adoptive mom grew up with severe depression. So my adoptive parents understood what it was like to have a child with mental illness and what it was like to deal with mental illness in their personal lives. So that helped a lot. That helped quite a bit. So adopting a newborn child, not knowing anything, just adopting this child, you know, go proceed with normal life, and then having those illnesses, you know, it's like I said, it's better to have a child with a few issues than to not have a child at all. And so I did have a learning disability. I do have a learning disability, and I spent all of high school in special ed math and English because, like I said, I learn at a slower pace, and I needed more one-on-one time so I could successfully get in education and graduate. So I did struggle a lot with mental illness and stuff as a kid, and especially like having Asperger's. I had no social skills, and I thought it was just me, and I thought I was weird as a little kid, because when you're in 3rd, 4th grade and nobody wants to hang out with you, you automatically think, oh, I'm weird, nobody likes me. But and I was I think I was diagnosed with Asperger's when I was 15 or 16. And when I was almost 17 years old, stop it. When I was, hey, stop it. Oh my God. So, growing up, when I was quite a bit younger, my parents didn't know. I hadn't been diagnosed with anything yet, and I think it was because you can't diagnose a child with a certain illness at a certain age. Yeah, that statistic, whatever that is. But my parents had put me in counseling when I was pretty young, and my adoptive brother, who's 4 years older than me, he had ADHD, so he had a PSR worker at one point. So my parents were used to taking us kids to counseling and stuff like that. And I went through several counselors as a kid. And like the reason why I went through several is because when I had a counselor, it didn't really quite click, and I didn't open up, and I didn't talk to him about what I was really feeling and stuff. And my parents were like, this isn't the one, we have to find a new one so Shelby can get the help she needs. So and when I was in I think it was 5th grade. When I was in 5th grade, my parents took me to this one counselor who ended up being my counselor from 5th grade to now. I think I was 10 years old when I started going to this counselor. She's amazing. She's hilarious. And I related with her so much. And she's like, when I finally got to her, I did feel like I could open up, and I didn't feel like it was just another adult listening to my issues and trying to tell me different facts about me and what I can do to control my anger and whatever. I don't even remember what all those counselors were like talking about and whatever, but I never really opened up to any until I found this last one. And like I said, she's amazing, and I really clicked with her, and to this day, she's still my counselor. I haven't been to counseling in a while because I just haven't needed it. Yeah, I really opened up, and she really helped me. I owe her a lot because she educated me on myself. And when you're a kid with unknowingly bipolar, and you have these insane tantrums and meltdowns, and you're destructive with it, you don't know what's wrong with you, and you don't know why you feel that way. So when I found this last counselor, she was amazing, and basically, I didn't hate myself for being different anymore, and she helped me understand that with my lack of social skills, it wasn't me personally that people didn't like. It was the fact that I don't really know how to socialize. And that was a huge thing growing up, because after that, it was like you feel a sigh of relief when you realize that it wasn't you personally, and it wasn't your personality that people didn't like and drifted away from. So yeah, there's that. And the next thought, I was, like I said, I think I was 15 or 16 when I was diagnosed with Asperger's, and I had gone to my psychiatrist. I had a psychiatrist for, I think, 2 or 3 years prior to this, but I think I was showing more signs of autism, of Asperger's specifically. So my psychiatrist recommended my mom take me up to Primary Children's Hospital and get some testing to see if the spinal meningitis that I had when I was an infant left me with Asperger's and autism. So, since I live in Idaho, of course, the closest place to go was Primary Children's. And I seriously, when I had spinal meningitis and encephalitis as a kid, as a toddler, that's where I went. Both times I had it, and I credit nurses especially so much, because I was taken such good care of there, and nurses don't know their patients. They don't know anything about them, and they have no personal relationship to them. And that's a lot of work to care for somebody that you don't know and you've never crossed paths with. So nurses, you're badasses. Anyway, I went up with my mom and my nana to Primary Children's Hospital when I was, I'll say 16. And we did the testing and stuff and all that. I don't really remember the extent of the testing. But afterwards, the testing was inconclusive. So it wasn't confirmed that I had Asperger's because of the spinal meningitis and encephalitis, but myself and my mom and my grandparents knew that even though the tests were inconclusive, I personally knew, as well as my mom and my nana, we knew that I got the autism from the meningitis and encephalitis, because I had hit all of my milestones, like I said, before I had these two illnesses. And I gotta say, Primary Children's Hospital and nurses, period, I don't remember anything. I don't remember any of the tests that I did when I was there for the autism testing, but I have to say, those people are magical. This nurse I had, we went into one exam room. I don't even know I don't know if it was an exam room or not. But we went in and we sat down, and the nurse that I had, she came in and was like, "Hi, how are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm good." And those guys really care about their patients. They really freaking do. And even though I wasn't at that time that I went, I wasn't in, my life wasn't in danger or anything. I was just there for some basic testing. And this nurse, seriously, like, she was like, "So what do you like to do?" and stuff. And I told her I really liked longboarding. And as she was sitting at her little laptop on her chair, she was like, "Well, I'm really not supposed to do this, but," and she like pulled up this Instagram page of her brother's, that he has this whole Instagram page. I remember what it's called. It's called Jace Boards. So go like that if you can find it on Instagram, because it's amazing. She pulled this up on her work I don't know if it was her work laptop or not. But while I was like, this is a nurse, dude. A nurse pulled this up and was like, "Yeah, my brother does this. You can come over and look at it too." And I'm like, dude, this nurse just pulled up this Instagram page about longboards. And like, these people are magical. These people are freaking magical. So that's my story with mental illness. But back to the Myka Stauffer deal, I understand that, from what I understand, that they had this little boy for a year or 2 or 3 somewhere, but they did have this little boy for over a year. And I have to say, it doesn't just take a village to raise an average kid. It takes a village to raise a kid with a mental illness. And I understand it is extremely difficult. I gave my parents hell. Even though my mom does have a mental illness, and she had dealt with her own mental illness her entire life prior to adopting me. Yeah, she knew more. Of course, she did have knowledge about how to deal with a mental illness. So in that regard, I don't even know, I can't grammar after that. But the fact that I gave my parents hell, but they never even once talked about sending me back or anything and whatever. But even, I mean, they did adopt me, and they did meet my birth mother, and they adopted me from a 17-year-old kid, guys. So of course they couldn't give me back, because I was adopted straight from the source. I wasn't adopted from an orphanage or a foster home at the time. This was 99, so I don't know if orphanages were called foster homes at that time. I don't really know. And I was adopted as an infant, literally a newborn. So I can't understand how you would return a newborn exactly after adoption, but I will say it is a lot of work to take care of a child with a mental illness. But in doing that, I mean, that would, like, I seriously, like, my thoughts on this are just like, okay, it takes, like I said, it takes a village to raise a kid, specifically a kid with a mental illness. But even if you're in the public eye, really, like, why though? Why? And it's like, I don't understand. Like, I heard that there were doctors that did testing on this little boy to learn the severity of his special needs and stuff. And apparently the doctors advised this woman to set this child back up for adoption. Now, I don't understand why any doctor or medical professional, be it physical or mental, emotional, psychological, any of that, I don't understand why a medical professional would say that to somebody. I really freaking don't. And it doesn't matter if you're in the public eye or not. Like, I don't have I don't have any opinions on how she treated this child or anything. I haven't read or watched anything enough to have an opinion on any of that. But even though it's a disgusting thing to do, I understand when people adopt children and the child acts up and has a lot and basically acts up and doesn't mind, has no manners or whatever. Even though it is terrible, like, I understand it because that's terrible. Sadly, that's what people do when they have a troubled child. Like, I expect, like, 10, 11-year-olds, people give those children back to the foster homes after adoption. Though it is disgusting and ridiculous and should be illegal, people do it, and it happens all the time. But the fact that you're going to do that to an infant with a special need and a mental illness, guys, that's why. That's all I want to know is why. And how could you do that to a child? And it doesn't matter if you're in the public eye or not. You shouldn't do that to a child, period. Like, yeah, I watched on Myka's YouTube video that they loved him, and they when they first adopted this child, they said that they'd never trade him for anything or whatever, which normally that's what a parent would say. That's what a parent would say, any parent. But guys, why? Like, no, there's no sympathy. Like, you can't. Why would you give a child up? And especially a child with an illness that doctors said you should put back up for adoption. I mean, what is that? It doesn't matter if you're in the public eye or not, but what does that say about your character? Yes, I understand you had 4 kids prior and got pregnant while this child was still in your custody. But if you were any kind of sensible parent that would give your life for your child, any of your children, however many you have, why? Like, I'm not saying, like I said, I don't know anything about these people. I only know that this woman is a YouTuber and has and her children have appeared in her YouTube videos. I literally just heard about this today, guys. But, like, why would you do such a thing? Like, why? I mean, in my hometown, there is a family that is so gracious. They adopt children from, they have their own biological children. Their biological children are their oldest. But they have a house, like, seriously, like, they have 20-something, 30-something kids because they have adopted kids from around the world with special needs. They sacrifice everything in their lives, and they are literal saints for doing that. They haven't given one up. Positive, they haven't given one up. They, seriously, like, these children are handicapped, disabled, and they have so many of them, and they keep adopting because they are seriously doing God's work, guys. And they purposely adopt these amazing children with these unfortunate circumstances and love them and care for them with everything they are. But why, though? Like, why? I don't get it. Like, why? I don't understand, guys. So, whatever. Okay, that's all I have to say about this. I I feel I just had to get my thoughts out there. I had to get my opinions out there because I just had to put my take on stuff and my story out there, because I do hope that it will help an adopted parent somewhere, or a parent that aspires to adopt, in realizing that children are not disposable, and an adoptive parent should be ready for anything. Literally anything. They adopted this child and brought them into their own lives because they wanted this so bad and felt in their hearts that they had enough love to give to a child that wasn't biologically theirs and was not their blood, to give them a better life and bring them in their own lives to be part of them as a family. That's all I have to say. I hope, like I said, I hope this gives an adopted parent or an aspiring adopted parent a little bit of education, and hopefully gives parents a realization of what could really happen, and that children are not always what the parent thinks they should be, and especially not disposable. So go ahead and hit like down below and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more uploads, and go hug your family, guys. That's just, keep the love in life. Come on, I dare you. And when I was 16 or 17 years old, I had I went to a counselor when I was probably